Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. All right, so welcome everyone to the very first Client Success webinar here at G-Shift for 2015. Today we are talking about the approachable brand, so digital content and channel publishing strategies. So my name is Crystal Wilshire. I'm the Influencer and Social Media Manager on the Client Success team here at G-Shift. I have nearly 10 years of experience in digital content marketing. And then to add to that, in my spare time, I'm also a blogger and what everyone affectionately here calls me as the social media addict. So when I'm not doing this all day for G-Shift, for the G-Shift clients, I actually go home and I do this in my spare time as well. So I actually have quite a bit of experience in developing content strategies as an actual paid influencer for brands through my blog as well, and using social media to help generate traction for those campaigns. So I've seen it from both sides, which is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. So, all right. We are going to look at 4 different sections today. We're going to start with written content types, then move on to visual media and audio content types. We're going to look at how you determine social network personalities based on your target audience. Then we're going to look at the actual implementation of your content strategy. So first off, written content types. So some general tips around written content. Keywords, obviously first and foremost. You know, we're SEO, we know this is what we do. So you need to actually make sure that you're writing for the reader first and foremost, and the keywords will naturally happen. So sometimes with written content types, people get very caught up on making sure that their keywords are in strategic locations. I would say that although you definitely want to be aware of them, and you definitely want to make sure that you're using the keyword in 2 or 3 different ways within a piece of written content. And when I say 2 or 3 different ways, take your keyword core and say it 2 or 3 different ways so you're not repeating yourself. You do want to make it sound as organic and natural as possible. So again, write for the reader first and foremost. Don't write written content for the search engine bots. Write it for your reader, and the search engine optimization will happen as a result. You need to make sure you're using short paragraphs, bullets, images, things like this to break up the content, especially as we get into some of the longer content types. You want to make sure that it's in manageable chunks. It'll just maintain your reader's focus and make sure that they're reading from start to end. You want to try to have links that go from your content to authoritative sites that lend support to your topic or opinion. So if there's kind of an industry authority, or a trade journal or something like that. Here at G-Shift, we tend to use Search Engine Watch, Search Engine Land, a few different ones like that we'll use. If they've said something similar to what we're saying, then we can use that piece of content they had to back up ours and show some supporting data. And of course, make sure that you proofread, you edit. Spelling and grammar really can make or break a piece, and that's true. There will always be the people that have an eye for grammar that will see that, and it will turn them right off from your content. So first up, we're going to look at blog articles. Your target length for a blog article is 500 to 700 words. Now, when I say blog articles, these are your traditional blog posts. So these are what most people think of when they're looking at blogging. The purpose of these is to provide short and useful information pieces. So these can be industry news, they can be opinions, how-tos, top 10 tips, things like that. So this is any kind of written content in an article form that you're going to share on your blog. It can even be company updates for that matter. You want to make sure that you craft a strong keyword-rich headline and URL to help with SEO. Next up, we're looking at guides. So guides are obviously a longer format. You want to aim for probably about 1,000 or more words. These are usually done in a downloadable fashion. So you might actually have a blog article that goes along with this that talks about what's in the guide. Like in this guide, you're going to learn, A, B, and C. So you can actually have a supporting blog article used to generate the downloads of a guide. The purpose of guides is to provide industry education and learning. So this is one of those things that you're going to use to add value to your reader, but also to prove that you're an authority within your industry. So this is a way of saying, we know this and we're going to share this knowledge with you. You need to make sure that you're providing any supporting documents, such as worksheets, checklists, and things such as that nature. The point of having worksheets or checklists within your guides is that it's a really great way for you to be able to pull some engagement into the document. So if somebody's reading through your guide, they see a worksheet, it actually gives them a chance to interact with your guide and keeps them just engaging with it a little bit more and keeping it as a resource that they're going to continue to reference. eBooks. eBooks are a much larger piece of content. With an ebook, you're going to look for a minimum of 10,000 words, so obviously significantly longer than a guide. I would actually even say that, you could write content that might be in a guide. You would then take that guide and it could be a chapter within an ebook. So that's kind of the way to look at it. A guide is one piece of learning, whereas an ebook, the purpose is more textbook. So it's your company's textbook. It's some education for your industry. It creates some storytelling around your brand. Again, it comes back to you building authority. So we know this information. We want to share this information with our readers, and an ebook might be the best way to do that. You want to create your ebook in the same structure as a traditional book. So utilize chapters, table contents, have an appendix, have a glossary, all of those types of things that you would expect to see from a normal ebook, from a normal book, and have it in a downloadable format. These are really great lead generation tools to use as well. Same, actually, I meant to say with guides as well. Because they're a downloaded document, people are very used to the fact that there'll usually be some sort of a form that they'll fill out in order to get access to the download. So they can be a really great resource for lead generation. You want to make sure that you publish your ebook in a variety of formats. So PDF and EPUB tend to be the two that everyone thinks of, because those are the general ones for downloading on various devices. But you may also want to consider HTML, because if you have an HTML format, you can do a few more things to it, such as embedding videos. So a few other content types that you can consider. You have case studies, testimonials, and reviews. So obviously both of those are more from your client's own words that tells a story, or a review of your company, your products, and your services. White papers, press releases. So press releases, again, more used for news, but another great way to add some variety to your content, your digital content mix, while still telling a story on your brand or service. Moving on to visual media and audio content types. So some general tips. You want to make sure that you present a professional image. Don't put out sloppy work. I think that goes without saying, but sometimes people rush to get a piece of visual content out there, whether it's an infograph or an image, and they don't necessarily put the time into it that they would have. Or I know, I've run into issues on my own blog where, I spend a lot of time writing the content and then think of the graphics as an afterthought. And that's not really the way that you should be doing it. The graphics can be as strong of a tool for your SEO and for content sharing and getting your content shared and engaged on as the actual written words themselves. So make sure you put the time and effort into them. Review and edit any graphics, videos, audio for spelling and grammar. So again, this gets back to just making sure you're taking the time to make sure it's done correctly, catch anything. The last thing you want to have is a really, really great infographic that's got a spelling error on it. Remember to brand your visual media. So this is one that some people can forget. You're getting caught up in something like an infograph and you forget to put your logo on it. So even if it's a soft sell, a lot of time infographic is a great example of something that people use as a soft sell. So it's not necessarily promoting your products or services in a hard sell, just in kind of a adding value type of way. You still want to make sure that you have your logo added to the bottom, maybe the bottom corner or something, so that people know that it's created by your brand. Be creative and step outside the box. So think of some different things that that you can do. If infographics, that's one we talk about a lot because they're so popular. If that's something that's already heavily done in your industry, what else could you do that would actually set you apart from the rest of your competition? So looking at videos, the general rule of thumb for posting videos in terms of length is to aim between 30 seconds and 5 minutes. Now, this obviously depends on what kind of a video you're creating. If you're creating a video for instance, Facebook, it has to be 15 seconds. So there is, of course, varies in the time length, but this is the general rule of thumb. The purpose of videos, same as a lot of the other content types we've talked about today. It's education, it's how-tos, it's your brand story, testimonials, etc. So you can use videos for a number of different topics that help promote your brand's message and products and services. You want to make sure that you optimize around specific keywords, just as you would with any written piece of content, because videos will rank in organic search results as well. So if you're posting a video up onto YouTube, make sure you're taking the time to actually do the optimization around that post. There's descriptions, there's tags, there's making sure it has a really good title. All of those sorts of things are actually carried as weight in optimizing them so that they come up in regular search engine results like any other web page. Infographics. So the purpose of an infographic is to present data or information in a graphic format. One of the things to keep in mind when you're presenting that data is that you want to have a good flow. So you can see in the infographic that we have here at step 1, step 2, step 3. So the point of an infographic is to actually direct the viewer's eye, the reader's eye, through the content in a certain pathway that you've laid out. So it's a really great tool that way to be able to tell a story in the way that you want it to be told, or explain a feature or a service in a way that you want it explained. These are shared socially a lot. So compared to some of the other visual graphics or visual media types that we're looking at, infographics are, again, widely popular right now. They can be shared on a blog, but then from there they can be shared out through Facebook and Twitter and, of course, Pinterest and a number of different venues that you can put them out through. This one here is actually the infographic that we created as the supporting visual for our last month 4-part blog series and webinar. So on creating smarter content and understanding your competitors' web presence. So you can find that again on any of our social channels and on our blog, but that's what we created it for. So again, it goes with the written content types that we were already creating. It's the visual supporting document with that. Podcasts. The purpose of podcasts are to provide information in an audio format via web, mobile devices, etc. It helps you build your authority and expertise related to your products or services. So you can really build quite a big following around podcasts. These are something that are starting to really become popular choice for a lot of people that want to get into audio marketing. It can be the same sort of types of content that you would put into an ebook or a guide, but you're doing it in an audio way. So, very much similar to what we're doing right now, just in a podcast, something that's either pre-recorded or done live that people can listen to on the go. So some examples here of ones that we can look up, and again, I'll send these links in the follow-up email to this webinar so you can check those out. But there's some really, really great ones out there that provide a lot of insight to various industries, which is essentially what you're trying to do with them. Images and memes. So we have our fist bump baby here. Fist bump baby has been done as a meme, probably a million different ways. So we've got ours here, tapped into internet culture, totally connected with consumers. So the whole point of images and memes is that they're fast delivery of information and they're very, very highly shareable. So it's a very quick punch. It doesn't take any time out of people's day to be able to see it. They don't have to sit down and watch a video for 5 minutes. It's just an image, and it gets out whatever message you've put into that image. So the goal with images and memes is brand messaging and awareness, not necessarily sales. So again, this is not sales in a direct way. It's a way of creating some brand awareness and some general awareness to your product or service in a very visual format. It's used as a mean to reinforce the message of supporting digital content. So again, it's there's a stat, and the actual number is escaping me at the moment, but content that has a visual element to it, such as an image, versus content that doesn't, is shared much, much higher scale. Something crazy, if I remember correctly, in the 70s, in terms of if you put out a blog post that has an image versus does not have an image, the odds of that blog post with the image being shared and engaged is much, much, much higher. So definitely something that you want to consider to support whatever written content you might be putting out. A few other options for some visual media and audio content types. Posters. So this is building up on the images, but these are something that people can actually consider printing and sharing and posting. Presentations and SlideShare. SlideShare is another big one that is really starting to gain momentum. That's where somebody can take a presentation similar to what we're looking at here today, my slide deck here, and putting that up on SlideShare for other people to be able to see. Another great one is comics and cartoons. So if anybody has actually read the blog post that I put up last week, which was part 1 of the 4-point series for this webinar, we've actually used a comic as the supporting graphic for that. So we have Scott the Realtor and his adventures in content marketing. And of course, we have social profile branding. So this is another one that can be very widely overlooked by some brands. When you're putting together your social media profiles, you want to make sure they have a cohesive look. So take the time to make sure that everything has the same logo, same branding colors. Make it look as cohesive as you can. So next up, determining your content and social network personality. Like traditional marketing, you need to identify your target markets. You need to know who you're talking to and where they are. So when you're identifying them, you need to learn which social media they're on and other content channels they frequent. All right, so we've got here a couple different examples. So once you've looked at your target market, you want to develop 2 to 3 different personalities. So looking at who they are, who are the personalities within your audience. So it's not necessarily likely that you'll have just one personality within your target audience. There'll be a couple. We have a few here. So the first off, John Smith, 43 years old. He's a B2B professional. He's on Facebook from 9 to 11 p.m. And he's socially active on LinkedIn from 8 to 10 a.m. He actively engages in group conversations and he likes to watch videos. So that gives you an idea of which social profiles he might be engaging in the most. Next up, we have Jane Smith. She's 32 years old, mother of 2, works part-time. She's socially active on Facebook from 1 to 3 p.m., which, let me tell you, is when the kids are napping. She is socially active from 9 till 11 p.m. on Twitter and Pinterest. So again, if moms are your demographic, you're going to more often be looking at when the kids are in bed as a time to talk to them. She actively shares images, blog posts, and she enjoys commenting on videos and sharing that type of media. Using your personalities, you need to establish a content strategy that's built around them. So you need to try to be on social media when you believe your target audience is. So schedule content during those times. It may not actually be business hours. So there's a number of different ways that you can do that. Either you can hire a social media manager that specifically works in the off business hours, if that's when your target audience is on social media, or you can use an app such as Buffer app or Hootsuite in order to schedule content. One word of caution though, if you are scheduling content, which I always recommend to clients if they do want to have some after hours updates go up, that's great and that's fine. It's definitely something you want to look at doing. Just make sure that you are taking time the next morning to evaluate that engagement and see if there was any reaction. So if you've posted something and somebody tweeted back to you or commented on something you shared on Facebook, make sure you're taking the time to see that and respond to it in a timely fashion. Be adaptable to change and update your personalities as new technologies and social platforms emerge. So don't be afraid to try something new. Experiment with a new social media if it comes up and starts to take hold. if it's something that your audience is doing. If it's something that you don't think that your audience is relevant on, then it's not necessarily something that you need to take time to do. You certainly don't have to be everywhere, and that's part of the recommendation around finding out the personalities within your audience and where they are. Be where they are, but don't exhaust yourself. And that leads into implementing your content strategy. So written content channels will obviously include your website, but they also include a lot more than that. So social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So as much as you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is what I want to write and post on my website, you should be putting thought into what are the words that I'm using on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. How can I leverage those with written content as well? So not only for sharing, but for posting too as well. There's also article sharing websites that you can use if you have created a blog post and you want to get it into a few more audiences. So again, I'll share this link out in the post email. If you're developing something like an ebook, there's a couple of different distributors, so App Store, Google Play, etc. Looking at visual media and audio content, of course, they also include your website, but there's a few other channels that you can use to promote that as well. So again, social media. In this case, you're looking at more, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. You are looking at Twitter and Facebook as well, but those three are kind of the more heavily visual ones. As well as if you're doing podcasts, then you want to look at podcast stations, so App Store, Google Play, etc. There's potential to provide this digital content to traditional media as well. So if you've created a 30-second video that you've put up on YouTube, and you have a local business and you want to share that video up onto your local news station as well on traditional TV, you can do that. So there are some crossovers there in terms of digital media to traditional media that you may be able to reuse that content as well. So when to post. This is some general rules of thumb in terms of the sweet spots for a few of the social media profiles. So for Twitter, it's from 1 to 3 p.m. Facebook is 1 to 4 p.m. Pinterest is 8 to 11 p.m. You want to gather your data metrics and plan around high engagement periods. So again, this might involve scheduling and posting if you can't be on those social profiles at that time. Frequency. You want to establish a regular publishing schedule. You want to look at creating quality content that will always trump fluff content. So create a regular schedule, but don't, if 1 week you're not going to get to creating a blog post or something that week, don't create something just for the sake of getting content up. It does have to be quality content. Social media content will be different for each channel, but you do want to be active across all the channels that you've chosen to take part in. So, there might be channels that you're more active in versus others, but make sure that you have some sort of a posting strategy. So you might use Facebook and Twitter the heaviest, and you have Google and LinkedIn, Google Plus and LinkedIn as placeholders. I would recommend that you're using, Twitter and Facebook maybe 2-3 times a day, but that you actually make a plan to make sure you're sharing to LinkedIn and Google Plus twice a week as well. So if you have those social profiles, have some sort of a plan to be at least consistent on them. You can provide different content across social channels as well. So although a lot of the content will be the same, and certainly a lot of companies do cross-posting with different social channels, you do want to have something different on different channels in order to give people a reason to follow you on all your channels. So this could be as simple as creating a strategy for, maybe Facebook is where you're going to share more content that is about driving engagement. So you want to interact, you want to build a community, versus Twitter is more news and updates, right? So there's some strategies you can do there where the content, again, is going to be similar. There will be things that you'll share across all of them, but it helps you create kind of a different tone and messaging and strategy for each social channel. Tracking results. So this one's obviously critical. You want to use data metrics provided directly in social media accounts. So Facebook Insights are great for providing, to an almost, I always joke, creepy degree of what you can see around who has shared what and who's viewing your content and who's interacting with your content on Facebook. So, and most of the social profiles have that. So for instance, Pinterest actually came out with their own analytics, I guess about maybe maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. So as long as you've got a verified website linked to your Pinterest account, you can see all sorts of different analytics there as well. Of course, you can use your G-Shift web presence analytics software to help as well. So there's external page tracking. If you've created something on Pinterest or YouTube and you want to actually track that specific piece of content, that specific update, you can put that in as an external page and have it tracked that way. If it's a blog post on your website, then you can track that as an on-site page. We, of course, have social signal tracking and analytics goals. All right, so I'm going to open this up now to questions and see what we've got for questions here. All right, so Dan had asked if we could have a copy of the PowerPoint when it's completed. Absolutely. So I'll make sure that that this gets sent out. I can send out the deck itself. We'll also be putting out a recording of this as well, and it will be sent out in an email shared through our blog, and then it actually gets posted to the resource section of G-Shift Labs as well. So the next time that you log into G-Shift, make sure you check in the resource section. It should be uploaded there as well once we have the recording converted. So someone asked, is it best to interact with your, this is Stuart asked if it's best to interact with your followers in real time versus the next morning. You might lose the engagement. You know what, that's definitely a great question. Really depends on your brand and messaging. Speaking as someone who uses social media from a corporate perspective, but also from a personal perspective, I've seen it done both ways. I can tell you, and maybe it's because I'm a little more sympathetic because I know the brand side of it as well. I'm not necessarily, it's not off-putting to me if a brand doesn't answer me. If I tweet at them that night and they don't answer me till the next morning, I don't find it off-putting because I understand business hours. If it's something that you're concerned with, then yeah, maybe make sure that you've got somebody on your team that can be listening to social media on an ongoing basis. With them all set up on mobile devices, it's really not hard to listen at all times. It's just a matter of the time and resources that you want to put into it. So what Stuart asked, what do you consider to be fluff content? What differentiates between fluff and quality? It really comes down to a matter of why you're writing the piece. So are you writing the piece just to get something written that week, or are you writing the piece because you have value to add? So it's a matter of, when you read it over, is it going to provide that value to the reader when they read it? Is it something that they're going to sit down and read and say, okay, I learned something from that, or I'm glad I read that, I got something out of that? And that would be more quality content. Making sure that it's written, quality content, probably something to be said for length in there as well. So don't write, 100 words just to get a blog post up. You want to make sure that you're putting out quality. So make sure that you've got 500 words and that they're not repetitive, that they're actually getting a point across. Views on Snapchat for a brand. This is one that I actually get asked a lot. For myself, I would say that my opinion of it would be, and sorry, this is Mitch that asked this. I would say, if Snapchat is something that you think that your brand could use, again, it comes back to those personalities. So Snapchat definitely has a much younger audience. I have yet to encounter a client that would need Snapchat, in my opinion. I've jokingly said here with the team, it'd be different if, Sony PlayStation or somebody like, major that has a very high teen demographic came to us and said, we want to be able to engage. That's something a little bit different. So it really depends on, again, knowing the audience and knowing the social media platform. Snapchat is definitely a much, much younger audience. So it really comes down to, do you think that your audience is there? All right, Stuart just added this, or adding value. Yes, that's definitely with all content, that's the big thing. It's just making sure that you're adding as much value as possible. Do we have any other questions? If so, again, you can just type them into the question section there. All right. Well, that's all the questions we had. If anybody, if you think of anything after the fact and you have any other questions that you wish you'd asked today, by all means, feel free to reach out to the client success team here. We're always here to answer any questions that you might have. Again, there will be a follow-up email to this. I'll include the links that were in the slide deck here, and I'll be sending out the slide deck as well so that you can look through it. And there will be the video in the resources section of G-Shift as well. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending our very first webinar for 2015. I hope you've got some excellent value today. Thank you very much.